Hey Ellie, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing good. How are you?
Fine, thank you. It's great to be talking to you today.
Yes, you as well.
So, how are you feeling? Now I've been able to watch everything back. How are you feeling today?
Honestly, today I feel relieved. I obviously have known this is coming, and my demise, I feel like was very steadily like gaining pace and momentum every episode. And so I could feel it coming. I obviously knew it was coming. And so today to be able to just talk about it and not have to be like, we'll see what happens, is honestly a really big relief.
Well, you can. You're in a fortunate position that you can counsel yourself, right?
Oh, far from it. I have my own therapist. I promise I'm getting help for all the things that everybody noticed during my time out there.
Now, looking back at the show, I mean, we saw how you guys evolved, and what went wrong with Gabler? Like, what happened? Where did things all start? Like, it seemed to be you're on the same page, and then boom.
Yeah, I think it was a couple of things, and I think it was a progression. First of all, we did build a really genuine friendship from the beginning, and that was real. I
Yeah.
think that after Mariah got voted out, we had a really bad rainstorm. He started kind of struggling with the starvation, honestly,
Yeah.
the physical aspect of it. Had some bad days, and it was looking like if we had to go back to tribal council, that for kind of the sake of keeping the tribe strong, that he would have been the vote, basically. It's how I felt. And so the whole debacle with the bag thing went down, and I feel like it was from that point forward. Like, he had this information, he knew that I had done something sneaky, or at least been a part of something
Right.
sneaky, and so I think that kind of changed our dynamic. It naturally would have, but me not knowing, I'm kind of like, why does this guy seem to hate me? And now obviously I know, and it all made sense. Like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, like you deserve to hate me after that, and deserve to want me out. I just kind of blindly was stumbling through our relationship after he figured that out on day 4.
Were you surprised at Owen and Sammy's? Obviously you didn't see a lot of their interaction and either with themselves or with Gabler. Were you
Yeah.
surprised by a lot of this? Because it seems like you thought you had them like managed.
Well, yeah, I mean, not just managed. I thought that we were allies, and I thought that we were working together. And
Right.
so I personally, I think that it came off often that I was like feeling overconfident in my position. I felt like we had an equal partnership because we all talked a lot. And so I was really, really surprised. I mean, even hearing at the merge that from Gabler that Sammy and Owen had said this. I then go talk to them. Owen's like, I had nothing to do with that. Immediately I believed him. I'm like, okay, yeah, I trust you fully. And Sammy was kind of like, I was put in a corner. He already knew. He could tell something was up with his bag. And I was like, okay, I forgive you too. Like, let's keep working together. So I was that invested in our relationship and friendship, and that I think was a big part of my downfall, is that I wasn't skeptical enough about, like, just because we like each other and we like to spend time together does not mean that they want to be aligned with me moving forward.
Now we watched you the entire season. You didn't hold back. You're a pretty enterprising player. You put yourself out there as a power player. Did it ever enter your mind that maybe I'm making myself a threat? Did you ever pull back, or did we just not see any of
I never pulled back, but I always thought about it.
that?
Like, every single day I'd be like, okay, today I'm just gonna take it easy. I'm not gonna stir anything up. I'm just gonna relax. And then lo and behold, like the hours later, I'm like, okay, how do we do this and that? It just, I was having so much fun, and I was living my dream of playing Survivor, that when opportunities presented themselves, I was just all in. And so I really had a hard time with restraint. I think that's something that Gabler did really well, of keeping that information and holding on to it until the right time. I would get information and just be so freaking excited that I would not hold on to it, and it would be the wrong person and the wrong time. And so, yeah.
And tell us a bit about your mindset. I mean, it's once Gabler dropped that bomb. I mean,
Yeah.
that was perfect timing in the sense that when the tribes all come together, there's that I don't know them, they don't
Yeah.
know me. We need to establish some kind of relationship because I have no history with these people. And once you drop something like that, that makes a very easy out for a lot of people. Um, what didn't we say? How did you react to that? I mean, obviously, it disrupted your game. Did you try to go speak to everybody? Did you try to did did Owen and Sammy try to help out? How did that whole situation play out once that bomb was dropped? I mean, that's a pretty
Yeah.
big bomb on your game.
Yeah. I pretty much immediately went and talked to Owen and Sammy, and then went off. You kind of hear me say, like, help me clear my name.
Mhm.
And so I went and I tried to talk with everybody. You definitely get that sense that you're walking into a conversation that you're not supposed to be there for. And there was definitely kind of that sense of intrusion. And so I would acknowledge that and just come up and be like, I get it. I know that I don't belong in this conversation. I just want to say, like, there was a misunderstanding. I am not the person that went through his bag. I'm also not willing to say who it was. And I hope that we can work together, and I hope that we can move forward. And that was really all I felt I could do. I felt like having Owen and Sammy advocate for me might help me out.
Yeah.
Sammy at least said that he was going to go do that. I learned later that he was going up, and I would kind of like overhear his conversations, right? I'd be there for a second and he'd be like, it wasn't her, I swear. And I would walk away and he would be like, bro, we got to get her out right now. So, I mean, he was doing a really good job, and I had no clue until later on. And so they definitely got me.
Well, one person who did stick with you was Janine. She was, pert right beside you the entire time. I mean, were you surprised that she stuck with you, even though things were as desperate as were? And were you surprised that unfortunately she didn't play that idol for you?
Well, so I'm not really surprised that she stuck with me, because I think the two of us were like really, really invested in the idea of keeping the five of us together.
Yeah.
We worked so hard in those challenges. We didn't lose a challenge after the first immunity challenge. And we were really like, I felt really motivated to getting all of us to the merge. Of course, this is all like hypothetical, but I stick to that. If roles had been reversed, I wouldn't have been trying to get Gabler out, even though we had issues. For that, if we had gone back to tribal as just the five of us, he was my target, but I wanted to get all of us through the merge. And so I think Janine was of the same mindset and truly believed with me that we were all on the same page, even though there was this kind of blunder and thing that needed to be repaired.
Right.
And the idol situation, I think that we both, again, were really trusting. I think that if I had asked her to play it during tribal, was kind of our contingency, that if there's either like a cascade of idols and everybody's rushing up to play their idols, then Janine would play it. Or if I feel sketched out and I kind of give her the signal that she would play it, and I didn't do that. I actually kind of waved her off and was like, I think we're good. So yeah, I really, I think some call it overconfidence. It wasn't so much overconfidence in myself as it was being overly trusting with the people that I thought I was working with.
Now, I ask this of everybody, all the survivors I speak to. Obviously, the show, it films 24 hours a day, but we only get to see so much. Is there anything that you wish they would have showed about your journey, whether it's, a strategy, a bond you made, a moment you had? Or is there anything that you wish would have made the show and that fans would have seen?
I mean, speaking of the bonds, I think that just for fun, I wish that they had shown how much fun Baka was having. Like, we were definitely messy in terms of our social relationships during the day and when it came to those strategy talks, but there were so many moments in between, and especially at night, like everything kind of calmed down and we would all come together and
Right.
and really take care of each other. Like, we're all feeding each other, like, oh, here's a snail, here's a piece of coconut. Like, have you had enough to drink? Have you had enough to eat? Like, as we kind of became human at night.
Yeah.
And it makes sense that that wouldn't be the focus of any episode, but I keep being like, I wish I had the home videos of those moments because they were really, really special. And other than that, I wish maybe that it showed some of the initial thought process about the Gabler idol situation. My first thought with that was I just wanted to ask him straight up, like, hey, does your idol still work? I can't remember the instructions. And I think that it would have been a total non-issue. But once we all kind of started mulling it over, there was a lot of question about this and that. And so it ended up becoming way bigger than it ever should have. And so I wish that it had at least shown that the first thought was, why don't we just ask him? And then that was convoluted by 4 different opinions.
Now, for one final question, and it really hit home with me when you spoke about your sister and everything that's happened with that. I mean, my mom married to abusive alcoholics. Wherever I go and wherever I go in life, I seen addiction and alcoholism seems to follow me, whether it's joining a new family or what have you. I appreciate you sharing your story. I'm sure so many people have, because it affects a lot of people more than we know. And I was wondering, what message do you hope that people take from this, or what advice can you give to them from your story and you being on the series?
Oh, that's a good question. I appreciate you bringing it up because I think that there's a lot of stigma around substance abuse, and
Mm,
there doesn't need to be. Addiction is is not a choice. It really is something that happens to people,
yeah,
and that they're suffering from, and that the families then suffer from. And so I
mhm.
guess maybe, first thing would be like to be compassionate with yourself.
Yeah,
If you're a family member of a loved one who is struggling with addiction, to like however you're coping with it, is you're doing the best that you can to get through it.
mm,
I think that's something that I carried with me a lot, of like having to create distance from my sister. And then after she passed away, I harbored some guilt about that. Like,
oh, yeah,
what if I had reached out more? But then being able to take a step back, I'm like, I spent 17 years of my life reaching out and
yeah.
trying. And so it's like hard to get past, but just taking a step back and just trying to be compassionate, that like you're doing the very best that you can.
That was the same with me in the sense that, you try to help people and you try to reach out to them in all sorts of different ways, different levels, and, condemnation, then sympathy, then guilt. I think that was the hardest part, is that unfortunately, sometimes you have to come to the realization that there's only so much you can do. And for a lot of people, that is very frustrating, especially if it's somebody who's really close to you and who you really love.
Yeah, absolutely. Something that I've said a lot, to my family, is that if love was enough, that she would still be alive,
Yeah.
because she's got a lot of people who love her and that
Yeah.
were in her corner, and it was so far out of everybody's control.
Yeah.
But that's just the nature of addiction.
Yeah. Well, once again, I want to thank you for sharing that, because again, I'm sure it resonated with a lot of people. And that's one thing you want to do on Survivors. You want to make an impact either in the game or even outside of the game where there's wider issues. So I appreciate you doing that. I'm sure a lot of people do. All the best to you in the future. And thanks so much for sharing your story with us. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. It was nice to meet you.
Great. Take care and have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, you too.